Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, a woman known for her iron constitution and her refusal to indulge in the performative fluff of palace politics, has stepped forward to reveal a truth that has sent a chilling shockwave through the hearts of Prince William and Prince Harry. This was not a pre-recorded message or a polished press release. It was a deeply personal, almost haunting final wish from King Charles III. It was a request that caught both his sons entirely off guard, surfacing in a family that has become defined by its quiet tensions, its vast unspoken distances, and a rift that many believed was beyond repair. The king's words, delivered with the sharp surgical precision of his sister Anne, have left the future of the monarchy hanging in a state of stunned uncertainty. As the world watches a king struggle not just for his health, but for the soul of his dynasty. The atmosphere during this unexpected summit was nothing short of suffocating. When Prince Harry arrived at Windsor alone and without the protective shield of Meghan Markle, the tension was so thick it could be felt by every member of the palace staff. Meghan's absence was a loud, vibrating silence, a message sent across the Atlantic that the ties that once bound this family together had been stretched to the breaking point. Inside the grand echoing halls, King Charles had summoned his inner circle, yet he chose a path that broke every rule of royal tradition, usually the one to lead the family through a crisis. The king sat in a weakened state, his physical appearance reflecting the brutal toll that his ongoing health battles have taken. He did not speak. Instead, he delegated the most important message of his reign to Princess Anne. To see the king so silent was for William and Harry a terrifying glimpse into a future they weren't yet ready to face. Anne stood before them, her posture a rigid line of duty. And when she spoke, her words acted as a hot knife through the heavy silence. This was no mere family meeting. It was the unveiling of a total overhaul of the monarchy, a restructuring so radical that it signaled the end of the world as they knew it. William, the Prince of Wales, watched as his destiny was suddenly fast-tracked. The timeline for his ascension, which he had expected to take years, if not decades, had been drastically shortened to a matter of mere months. The shock was visible on his face, a mask of duty struggling to contain a surge of overwhelming responsibility. Harry, standing on the periphery like a ghost in his own home, felt the irreversible shift. For a split second, his eyes met William's, and in that fleeting moment, a century of shared history and current pain passed between them. The room quickly dissolved into a cacophony of quiet arguments and desperate concerns. Prince Edward, the perennial peacekeeper, found himself caught in the crossfire of a family divide that seemed to be widening even as the king tried to bridge it. Even Queen Camilla, who usually remains a reserved figure in these internal summits, could not hide her concern regarding the breakneck pace of this transition. But this was not a whim of the king. It was a desperate, calculated move for survival. Charles, in his late-night hours of reflection, had realized that the monarchy's place in the modern world was no longer guaranteed. With approval ratings among the younger generation plummeting and a growing wave of Republican sentiment sweeping through the Commonwealth, he knew that the institution needed to be reimagined, trimmed and modernized if it was to survive the skeptical eyes of the 21st century. The weight of history pressed down upon this meeting like a leaden shroud. Charles's decisions were forged in the fires of the 1936 abdication crisis, a moment that nearly destroyed the crown. He had watched his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, sacrifice her entire identity to the service of the state, becoming a living, breathing symbol of continuity, while her personal life was relegated to the background. Charles grew up in that shadow, seeing how power could isolate a person, turning them into a statue while the world moved on. Now, with his own health failing, he was determined that William would not inherit an institution weakened by internal strife or outdated traditions. The patient heir had finally become the king, but he was a king racing against time. He began implementing financial transparency measures that would have been unthinkable under his mother's reign, opening royal estates to the public and converting properties into housing for those in need. He was stripping away the glamour to find the relevance. Behind the scenes, the transfer of power was already well underway, with William receiving the government's red boxes and taking a more central role in meetings with the Prime Minister, slowly assuming the weight of the crown before it even touched his head. In this landscape of rapid change, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, emerged as the monarchy's secret weapon, an emotional anchor that neither Diana nor Meghan could truly become. Kate moved into the center of the royal machine with a quiet, devastating competence. While William prepared for the mechanics of kingship, Kate became the bridge between the crown and the people. Her middle-class background, once used as a weapon against her by elitist courtiers, had become her greatest asset, allowing her to connect with the public in a way that felt authentic rather than aristocratic. She handled public scandals and private betrayals with a dignified silence that earned her the respect of even the most hardened diplomats. Within the palace walls, her influence grew as Charles began to seek her counsel on family matters, recognizing in her the stability and judgment that had been missing from the Windsor marriages of the past. Kate was no longer just the wife of the future king. She was the stabilizing force upon which the entire future of the monarchy seemed to rest. Meanwhile, the divide between the brothers remained a dark, unhealed wound. Prince Harry remained a figure caught between the sunny, independent life he had built in California and the deep, ancient roots that tethered him to London. The relationship between William and Harry was not just damaged. It was a scorched landscape. Years of public revelations, from the Oprah interview to the explosive pages of Harry's memoir Spare, had created a wall of resentment that seemed impenetrable. William's refusal to even mention his brother's name in private reflected a hardening of his heart, a protective measure for a future king who saw Harry's actions as a direct assault on the crown. Rumors of even more unreleased chapters of Harry's story hung over the palace like a looming storm, creating a climate of constant anxiety. The power dynamic had shifted. Harry could no longer appeal to the soft heart of a father. His future status, his titles, and his very connection to the family now rested entirely in the hands of a brother who felt deeply betrayed. William's leadership style was emerging as more decisive and less patient than his father's, with reports suggesting he was ready to establish clear permanent boundaries that might include the total removal of the Sussex's royal titles to protect the brand of the monarchy. As the king's health continues to fluctuate, his final royal wish remains a haunting, unresolved plea for family healing. According to those in his innermost circle, Charles spends his quietest moments looking at old photographs, yearning for a reconciliation that would allow his sons to find common ground once again. He did not want Harry fully back in the working fold, but he could not bear the thought of a permanent cold estrangement. He maintained private lines of communication through intermediaries, desperate to leave behind a family that wasn't completely shattered. Princess Anne's delivery of this message was a call to duty, a challenge to William to balance the cold needs of the institution with the warm blood ties of brotherhood. But as William prepares for his own reign, the world is left to wonder if he will honor his father's wish for an opening, or if he will firmly lock the door that Harry walked through years ago. This is more than a family squabble. It is a battle for the identity of the British monarchy in a digital age where every move is dissected and every silence is interpreted as a statement. The modern monarchy, as Charles envisions it, is a stripped-down, focused and pragmatic entity. It is an institution that no longer relies on the mystery of the crown, but on its utility and its accountability. Charles has been the most transformative king in a century, not because he wanted to be, but because he had to be. He recognized that the era of Queen Elizabeth's never complain, never explain was over. In an age of social media and 24-hour news cycles, the monarchy had to speak through its actions and its transparency. He established social media councils and modernized the way the family interacts with the press, trying to control a narrative that had been violently hijacked by the drama of the previous years. But this modernization has a high cost. It requires a level of discipline and unity that the family currently lacks. The absence of Harry and Meghan, the health battles of the King and the Princess of Wales, and the rising tide of republicanism have created a moment of extreme vulnerability. The summit at Windsor was the culmination of these pressures. Princess Anne, standing in the middle of her warring nephews, represented the old guard's final attempt to hold things together. She conveyed Charles's wish as a matter of duty, but her blunt, no-nonsense tone suggested she knew how difficult the task would be. The monarchy can issue decrees and host state banquets, but it cannot fix a broken heart or a shattered trust. As William stands on the precipice of power, he faces a choice that will define his reign. Will he be a king of reconciliation or a king of the new firm? Defined by exclusion and institutional safety, Charles's final wish was not just a request for peace. It was a final test of his son's character. It was a question posed to the future. Can the crown be both a symbol of a nation and a home for a family? As we watch the king's health decline and the Princess of Wales assume her role as the future's anchor, the silence of the brothers remains the most telling detail of the royal story. They are two men who shared a childhood of trauma, yet they are now separated by an ocean and a mountain of grievances. Charles's desire for healing is the wish of a father who knows he is running out of time. But the survival of the monarchy is the duty of a king who knows he must protect the institution at all costs. The two are in direct conflict. The restructuring of the monarchy, the slimming down of the royal roles, and the opening of the palaces are all steps toward a more sustainable future. But without family unity, the institution remains a house divided against itself. The world is watching, the historians are writing, and the brothers are waiting. The final wish of King Charles III hangs in the air, a flickering candle in the vast cold halls of Windsor, waiting to see if it will be blown out by the winds of change, or nurtured into a flame that might finally light the way home. In the end, Charles's reign may be remembered not for its length, but for the profound courage it took to dismantle the very thing he spent a lifetime waiting to inherit. He is a king of transition, a man who realized that to save the monarchy, he had to change it fundamentally. But his legacy is inextricably linked to the relationship between his sons. If William and Harry cannot find a path back to one another, the modern, streamlined monarchy that Charles has built will always be shadowed by the tragedy of a family that could not save itself. The decisions made in the wake of the Windsor summit will ripple through the decades, determining whether the House of Windsor remains a vital part of British life or becomes a relic of a past that couldn't survive the truth. The king has made his move. He has spoken through his sister and laid his cards on the table. Now the crown and the family's future rests in the hands of Prince William. Will he honor the father's heart, or will he serve the king's crown? The answer to that question is the final, most enduring mystery of the modern royal era. As the sun sets over the battlements of Windsor, the silence returns. But it is no longer the silence of continuity. It is the silence of a transformation that is as painful as it is necessary. The monarchy is being born again, stripped of its old excesses and its old certainties. It is a leaner, harder, and more exposed institution than it has ever been. And at its center is a family trying to find its way in the dark, guided by the final, desperate wishes of a king who only ever wanted his sons to stand together. Whether they will or not is a story that only the coming months will tell, as the crown moves closer to William and the spare moves further into the unknown. The royal identity is no longer a given. It is something that must be earned, defended, and reimagined every single day. And as Charles watches from his study, surrounded by the photographs of his boys, he can only hope that the foundation he has laid is strong enough to hold them both, even if they never speak again. This is the new reality of the House of Windsor, a monarchy of adaptation, a family of secrets, and a future that is as fragile as a king's final breath. The digital age has fundamentally altered the landscape. Every appearance is analyzed, every gesture is a GIF, and every silence is a vacuum that the internet fills with its own theories. The Royal Social Media Council and the PR experts are working overtime to ensure the William and Kate brand remains untainted. But the human drama of the Sussexes remains the ultimate disruptor. It is a battle between the traditional media's loyalty to the palace and the digital world's hunger for conflict. Charles knows he cannot win this battle with old weapons. His pragmatic approach to the Commonwealth, his transparency with finances, and his conversion of royal estates into housing are all attempts to disarm the critics before they can strike. He is trying to make the monarchy too useful to be abolished. But usefulness is not the same as love, and the monarchy has always relied on a degree of emotional connection that transcends utility. That connection is currently under threat from the family's internal divisions. Prince William understands this better than anyone. He has watched his mother and his wife navigate the harsh light of public scrutiny, and he has developed a shield of iron. He is a modern man who understands power, but he is also a son who remembers the pain. His decision regarding Harry will not be made out of malice, but out of a calculated assessment of what the crown needs to survive. If he believes that reconciliation is a risk to the institution, he will choose the institution every time. This is the burden of kingship that Charles is trying to prepare him for. It is a lonely path, one that requires the suppression of personal feelings for the sake of a larger symbol. As William moves closer to the throne, the golden boy is becoming the decisive king, a man who knows that some wounds are the price of a legacy. The king's final wish is a beautiful sentiment, but in the cold light of royal duty, it may be the one thing that William cannot afford to grant. The monarchy stands at a crossroads, and the direction it takes will be determined by the strength of the bonds that remain. Catherine's role as the emotional anchor, Anne's role as the truth-teller, and William's role as the future leader are all pieces of a puzzle that Charles is trying to assemble before he steps away. He wants to leave behind a system that works even if the family within it is broken. But as history has shown, the crown and the family are inseparable. You cannot have one without the other. The final wish of the king is a reminder that even the most powerful men are at their core fathers, who want their children to be at peace. And as the world waits for William's answer, we are reminded that the most important royal duty is not to the state, but to the people we love. Whether William can find a way to honor both is the ultimate question of his life and his reign. The summit is over, the message has been delivered, and the weight of the future now rests on the shoulders of the man who would be king. As we conclude this exploration of the monarchy's most intimate and transformative moment, we are left with a sense of the profound fragility of power. The House of Windsor is a house of glass, illuminated by the glare of the world and held together by the will of a king who is running out of time. Charles's final wish is a testament to his humanity, but William's response will be a testament to his kingship. The tension in the air at Windsor that day was not just about two brothers, it was about the survival of an era. And as the next video plays and the world continues to speculate, the real story will be written in the quiet moments between a father and his sons, in the letters that are never sent, and the words that are finally spoken in the dark. The monarchy moves forward, but the heart of the family remains behind. waiting for a healing that may never come. What do you think? Should William open the door? Or is the crown's stability worth the price of a brother's exile? Let us know your thoughts.